Hello and welcome to WJ Live. I am George Upper, Editor-in-Chief of the Western Journal, the power behind WJ Live. I'm joined today by Deputy Managing Editor Joe Sedian. Hello,
Hi.
Joe. And by our very special guest, my friend and my pastor, Brian Bowman of Valley Life Church.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah.
Glad you
to-
came clean about that. That I'm your pastor right away. Get it out of the way.
Pastor and friend, I said.
Yeah.
For the record. I'm going to start and end today with a quick programming note that this is our last show for 2020. We will be taking the next 2 weeks off for the Christmas holiday, and I guess for New Year's too, if you want to count that. Mostly for Christmas. We'll be back at same time, same place, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific on youtube.com/WJ Live, Monday through Friday, starting on January 4th. So if you're looking for us the next couple of weeks, we're not going to be here. We'll continue to post some clips, etc., to keep you informed and maybe even a little entertained, but we will not be live for the next 2 weeks. Hopefully entertained, mostly at our mistakes. All right. I will end the show with that as well. But to start off, Brian, 2020, to make a point that's been made many, many times already, 2020 has been a year unlike any that I've ever lived through before. It's just been weird. As a pastor, I know that people come to you all the time with questions, with concerns, with fears, sometimes for counsel, sometimes just a vent, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What would you say has been different from your perspective this year about the issues that people are bringing to you as opposed to previous years?
Well, like you said, 2020 is almost like an exclamation in itself.
Yeah.
And
it's become its own phrase.
Yeah. And when people, it's the same things. First of all, it's the same things. But, man, it's drawn to a point in everyone's life. And, it's still marriage. It's still, fears of death. It's still people who I love are sick, or people who I love don't love me back. It's all the same things, but golly, everybody's feeling that pressure from the outside because of it. So, as a pastor, I know going into whatever conversation it is, the drama is heightened. I mean, I just got out of one before I came here.
Really?
Down there at Starbucks, and what wouldn't normally be, the topic was an important topic, but what wouldn't normally be something you would cry about in front of strangers in a Starbucks. Next thing you know, this person is there, and I know some of that is just everything that's gone on for 12 months or 9 months, whatever it's been.
Yeah, Lisa and I, my wife and I, just got back from a trip to North Carolina, visit our family out there, and things are a little more intense there in terms of COVID restrictions, et cetera. In fact, they announced a curfew while we were there, overnight curfew. Mm-hmm. And you just feel the weight of it. And I thought that I was feeling that in Arizona, but in North Carolina, it was a whole different, it's like its own thing. And I've never experienced anything like that before.
Yeah.
It totally would make sense to me that people are coming to you with the same kinds of things, but now they're up at an 11.
Right.
And it's not the thing that made it the 11, it's the environment.
Yeah, it feels like, that whether it's just our, Western culture, modern American Western culture, or whatever it is, there is a cushion. We have this cushion that we built in, whether it's job or the way we entertain ourselves, even just sports. The fact that we know that the football game's coming on Sunday or Saturday or whatever it is.
Not this year.
You take that away from us, and it's not like, in some people's cases, what all has happened in 2020 has been the catalyst for difficulty. But in some ways, it's just my security blanket has been taken away. And here I am exposed with the same problems I always have, but I'm reaching for what makes me feel better, and it's not there. And I have to deal with it. And I see that most acutely in people's marriages and relationships in general, often marriage, sometimes mom and dad or whatever it is, but in relationships, because now we have to do this. We have to deal with this.
You can't go out to the movies. You got to sit and look at it.
You can't get away from it.
Yeah.
You have
and
to
movies
be in the house,
obviously is, the thing where you sit there and don't talk to each other.
Right. No, you both look that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, or you can't watch the game together. You can't. You just have to talk to each other, and talking to each other when you have
6 feet apart.
Yeah, it's hard. It can be pretty hard. Brian, I want to ask you a question. I'm going to throw two tweets up on the screen. first off, we know that people are at each other's throats right now, right? In terms of the political divisions, whatever you want to talk about with the election and everything like that. So, first tweet here, the incoming, Joe Biden's campaign manager, Jen O'Malley Dillon, called Republicans a bunch of effers, right?
Yeah.
Then on the flip side of that, you have conservative pro-Trump social media sensations Diamond and Silk. And they said, if the Supreme Court can't save our republic, then where is the military? Now, both of those things are not good. And they're from opposite sides of the aisle, and it's not really helping that much of anyone, I would say. So, with such heightened tensions, how can we live our calling as Christians to be lights in the world, and how can we especially reach out and make disciples of people who disagree with us politically?
Yeah, that's got a lot of layers, Joe.
Yeah.
You said as
It's a 30-minute show, Joe. I don't know
Sorry.
how much we could accomplish, folks.
there's sub-points
We'll
or
see what we
sub-points, but to begin with, you said as lights in the world.
Yeah.
We're living out our calling as lights in the world. And Jesus said, light and darkness. A lot of the book of John is about light and dark. And, to me, famously, I think Christians probably know that Jesus said, hey, you're going to be lights in the world, and you should know that people don't like the light. People who are living in the dark stay in the dark because the deeds they do are evil. So I think the first thing, using your question, if you're going to set it up that way.
Which one?
Yeah, that we're going to live out our calling as
Yeah.
lights. I think you have to build into the process that, the truth will set you free. When you live in light of that truth, people are going to want to be in the dark. So we're going to necessarily separate ourselves if we're going to live as lights in this world. And that, Galatians 1:10 says, if you're going to be walking in fear of man, then you're not serving God. So it's as though whichever side of whatever aisle you want to talk about, if you're going to serve man or you're going to live in fear of man, you're not going to serve God. If you're going to walk in the light, you can expect those who are living in the dark, and they live in the dark because they do evil deeds, to separate themselves from you. That's the first thing I would think to your many layered question there, is we're going to end up feeling separated if we're going to take that on. Now, if we choose to say, well, this is my, whatever word you want, this is my tribe, or these kind of people are my people, whatever that means, well, then you're going to separate yourself from walking in the light, from walking in the cause of serving God.
So you think we need less tribalism, and to an extent?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, if you want to say, well, my tribe is going to be the people,
Right.
Okay, well, then do that. If you're going to walk with the people of the Lord, then understand you're going to be at odds with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that you're right, the tribalism, it's not helpful for the thing that people are actually trying to get done.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. My next question, and it kind of just has to do with what we're dealing with COVID and with the election and with all of those things. I've heard from a lot of people that they're having a hard time trusting God in the midst of all these difficulties. Christians and non-Christians.
Sure.
What's your message to people who just can't do it right now, or are having a hard time trusting that everything's that God's going to take care of them?
Yeah. And it's similar to what I told George. That's not different. It's always been that. It's always been that people have a hard time trusting God. Christians and non-Christians. When we say God's job is to do certain things and he doesn't come through with what I think his job is, he doesn't fulfill the job description that I handed out to him when I prayed last night. Well, we're always going to have a difficult time trusting him with that. But
that's not really God that we're not trusting at that point, right?
Right. That's a Mr. Potato Head God. And he didn't have the ears that I gave him because he didn't listen the way, and he didn't have the mouth I gave him because he didn't speak the way I wanted.
Right.
That's a different thing. But I think the thing I would say there is it's always been that way. Mm-hmm. And 2020 has not changed that. It's just exacerbated the situation when people are now, to some more extent, calling out to God and having to reconcile the difference between the God that they imagine or would like to serve, and then the God who has always been and has seen many worse things than this come down the pike. And our people, going to our tribe, our people, the Christians who have relied on God, my goodness, we've been through far worse than this.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we've been through persecution and being burned at the stake, being stoned, all that stuff. Jesus never says it's going to be easy to be a follower of
Just
him.
the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In fact,
he says
he said
you're going
it
to lose a lot of stuff if you do that.
Yeah.
to sacrifice a lot of stuff.
And for sure, when you read the scriptures, they're talking about deliver us from our enemies, deliver us from our enemies. But the enemies that they, likely had in mind at that moment in time, those enemies are all gone. The true enemy is the devil and the flesh and the forces of this world. And God is going to defeat those enemies and is at work in defeating those enemies. And Jesus said, if you see the stuff happening around you that's happening around you, then the kingdom of God has come.
Yeah.
And if we're about the kingdom of God, God bless America. I'm all about it. God, do your best for us. But his kingdom has come and is coming.
Yeah, the story's been written, right? The
Absolutely.
story's already been written. We already know the ending. As Christians, we know that Christ is going to come back, and the people who believed in him are going to have eternal life. And it's not whatever troubles we may have, whether it's COVID or the election or anything, they're not going to last ultimately because
Right.
Christ won already. He already beat death. Right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I want to know if Mr. Potato Head God's going to make it into a sermon at some point in the near future. That
There's
seems
a
like
good
a pretty
chance.
good illustration.
There's
to
a good
me.
chance. Of course, that does date me somewhat. Dates me and you both, George. Joe's like, I don't even know
I
what
know
you guys
Mr.
are talking
I had a
about.
Mr. Potato Head when I was a kid.
He's seen
Yeah.
Toy Story. He's
Okay,
seen
yeah.
Toy Story.
I'm not that young.
That is a great illustration. That is a great illustration. So sort of along the same lines of some of what Joe has been asking. You know that Western Journal's a Christian conservative publication, and WJ Live is a product of that. And so politics is much of what we're involved in. It's much of what our readers and our viewers and listeners are interested in. And so I've been struggling a little bit this week, having come back from vacation, and I was kind of hoping I was going to come back and everything was going to be resolved, and I was done making those decisions about,
Nope.
Yeah, no, none of that's done. I have been struggling literally with, I don't want to tell people to stand down from politics. I take my civic duties seriously. I want to encourage other people to do that. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's important. I also think it's godly if it's done right. Okay? But that to me is the very issue. That's the crux of it, is doing it right in this environment in 2020, really the past several years. Doing it right is just so difficult. So what advice would you have, just practical advice for me, for other people watching, who want to be politically active, but also don't want to be part of that vitriol that,
Right.
it's so easy to get sucked into that. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I know you, we follow each other on Twitter. I know you see me get mad at people there.
But the tweets we saw on the screen, how do you not be part of that?
It's
Yeah.
hard to see that on Twitter and not want to
Yeah.
respond.
Right.
Most of the time I'm better than that, but not all the time. Sometimes I'm not better than that. So what's, just in a practical, like when you're faced with that situation, what do you do? What do you tell people to
Short of calling people effers or whatever.
do? Assuming you want to stop just shy of that line. How do you do that?
Well, again, it's the same thing. When we can't extricate ourselves from the need for money.
Right.
Okay,
right,
we can't extricate ourselves from the need for relationships, and yet, money, sex, and power. Those are the
Trouble
three.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we cannot do is to say, so then I moved to the mountains and cut off relationships, and now I don't need money. That isn't the plan. It's
So
never-
tempting sometimes, though. So
That's because you're old.
Well, I've literally told my wife, sometimes I sit in my office out here and I look at those mountains on the other side of I-17 and think, oh, maybe,
Yeah,
maybe I
and-
could just walk out there.
And certain Christians have tried that
That's
to different,
true.
different extent. People
Yeah.
have said, okay, we're just going to pull away from this evil
Yeah.
world, but it's not. That's never been the plan. In fact,
Right.
that's some kind of a dualism where you say all that matters is my soul and my body doesn't matter. Whether I'm going to deny myself sex, I'm going to deny myself money or influence, which is
Food.
political power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Paul went right against that and said, there's some people that are going to try to limit you on that and say, abstain from these things. That's not of God. The Lord did create us for the capacity to, if you want to call it political power or influence, to have the city flourish or have the nation flourish. It's right and it's good. But I think it's important to think that's not different from the need, the drive to acquire money, to invest in romance. That's all very good stuff. But we can't let that become an idol. Can't let that become the thing that then God serves. So that's when people get upset with the Lord. And, well, I thought he was good. I thought he was supposed to make these certain things happen. And yet I prayed to him and he didn't let my guy win, or he didn't get me that promotion, or that girl still is not into me. We serve God. And each of those things, whether we're winning or losing in those things, they serve as, if you like to say, conduit. So it rolls up to our relationship to God.
That's such a good way to identify when you've sort of crossed a line there. Is when it may be hard. I would anticipate it being hard for me to see in the moment, maybe, but with a little bit of reflection, the idea that I have stopped serving God with this thing,
Right.
and I have started asking God to serve this thing.
Yeah.
Is
Which
it-
one's being used?
Yeah, exactly. I can see that as just a very practical way of sort of, I've crossed a line.
Yeah.
Of
When-
recognizing it.
When I've talked about this with kids, I said, thinking about a pizza. What's the pizza for? Is pizza's good? I'm glad you like it. And it can be a metaphor for a lot of things, but I'm glad you like it. But is this pizza then used to thank God? This is a way for me to enjoy what God gives and glorify God. Or is God to get me pizza? If God is in my life, or whoever is in my life, to get me this pizza, well, now that thing is God. It's the ultimate.
Yeah. That's really good.
I know a couple months ago, and if I'm wrong in quoting or paraphrasing, then you should definitely let me know. And a couple months ago in one of your sermons, you talked about, I think, how Christians should focus a little bit less on politics. Can you go into that and explain it in a much better way than I could?
Christians should focus a little bit less on politics. By and large, some people should focus more because you should care
Right.
more
Sure.
about the place
If you're a
that you
politician,
live.
then probably got to focus on politics.
Yeah, you should.
probably.
But to get what I've seen, and I guess what I was pushing against, is the idea that things will definitely be better when I get what I want. Say it that way. I know what I want. I've done my research or whatever, and things will definitely be better. And that says what God has done. I'm going to have to call God on the carpet and put him in front of the jury stand, and I'll allow him to make his case as to why he thinks that this should happen. But here I sit, and I'm judging it, and I'm going to say, if I think it's appropriate or not.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to, by and large, Christians are going to have to get to the place where Jesus is king, Jesus is returning, and that in itself is enough for me. And everything on the timeline of history that leads up to it, I'm okay with. Because our brothers and sisters around the world in this era and in other eras have suffered the good and the bad all along the way. And we're cool with it right up till now.
Yeah.
Everything that
now it's me though, Brian. So
Yeah.
come on.
We're different.
Yeah.
If there's a Caesar that needed to be in place so that the Roman government could have a hand in crucifying Jesus, so let it be. But that led up till now, and I don't like what's happening now, no matter
Yeah.
what it is progressing towards. That's what's going to have to be just critiqued more.
No, that's a really good point.
Yeah, that is really good. It's always easier, right, to speak truth and to see the truth in somebody else's situation. That's
As with
always-
everything, is it easier said than done?
Absolutely. That's always easier. And plus, those people are dead now, so it doesn't matter anyway,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, just think of all the folks who under the Caesars, particularly under some of the Caesars, prayed to be released from that.
For sure.
You know,
we always imagine I don't know if people do, but sometimes you imagine yourself as Moses. And I've got this thing in my life, and man, you hear the sermon about Moses, or you read about it and say, well, I need to be let out from under my oppressor. And you got to remember there were generations of slaves who suffered under Pharaoh before Moses.
400
And-
years. Yeah.
And that's what sets the stage for this incredible miracle. God give redemption, to people. Give it. Free people. But as God chooses, we will serve him. Whatever it is he chooses, we will serve him.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
if we're going to, back to your, I guess, original question,
Yeah.
being lights and speaking the truth, wanting to see conversions of people to Christianity. What we're going to have to do is to affirm what they desire, because Scripture says God has put eternity in people's hearts. So they're wanting something good, and we can say, this is what you believe, and that is good. If you believe that, then what about this? And we have to do that within the context of suffering. People do suffer, and we're going to have to be able to say, it's not as though I only serve God when I'm winning or when I'm not suffering, but here in my suffering, this is how I serve the Lord.
Yeah, and that comes out. I mean, the truth, who you are, comes out in your suffering often. If you only praise God and if you only serve God when you're winning, then it doesn't mean anything if you cast him aside when you're suffering, like Job did, right? Job said, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
Yeah.
Even when he had lost literally everything. And I guess that's a good example of what we're supposed to do.
Yep, totally.
All right, so it is the Christmas season, and so when we're getting ready to take our Christmas break, and so I want to spend a few minutes here towards the end of the program talking about that, because there is this sense, and we see it actually even in readership at the Western Journal. We see the stories that people are focusing on, not focusing on. There is I think, a desire for a reminder of the things that are eternal and things that matter. And whether, even for non-believers, where they're talking maybe about family ties or the holidays, or, just that kind of thing. Even for people who don't celebrate the birth of Christ this time of year, they're looking for something to talk about and to enjoy other than, Corona and the presidential election.
Sure.
And almost anything will suffice, I think,
Right.
other than those two
Right.
things.
I'll take a Browns game.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about that, but maybe. So I'm sure that all of that is on your mind as you have been preaching Christmas messages. You're in the series now. And, of course, Christmas is amazingly right around the corner.
Mercifully right around the corner.
Yeah, mercifully. I'm actually more excited about New Year's Eve maybe this year than Christmas, to just be done with this year. How do you see your Christmas messages to your congregation at Valley Life Church maybe being a little different this year than they have been in previous years?
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel the need to say or communicate in a different way this year?
Well, similar to what you were saying, people are so ready for Christmas. We
Yeah.
sense that. I mean, immediately right after Thanksgiving, people's lights were going up around town. You could tell people were really ready for
Yeah.
it. And we even adjusted as a church, because usually that's more of a let's get ready to start our putting the Christmas things out and up. And we said, no, it's right now. It's
Yeah.
time to put it all
And
together.
we loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And as far as the message, it's the same thing. The truth will set you free. You say the truth. And what I've noticed in however many years of ministry and pastoring there've been there, you say the same things. Pastors are always going to say, you're going to talk about the birth of Jesus and all that stuff.
Going to quote Isaiah.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
And people will apply that, in a sense, preach their own sermon. They're going to apply that to their own life. And this year, there's a different application that people are going to hear. But it really is, whether it's marriage, whether it's job stuff, finances, kids. I'm trying to deal with my aging parents. It really is the gospel, the good news. It is applicable. It's good news all the way around. And I can preach the same message every time, which essentially every Sunday, let alone every Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm preaching the same thing. And people can still walk out of there and say, man, it was like you were reading my email. You spoke that just to me. But it's the same thing. It really is.
Yeah.
This world is dark. And people love the dark because their deeds are evil. That's built into it. And it applies in whatever category of life. Jesus has come and he's the light. I'm not the light. Christians aren't the light. We know who the light is, and Jesus is the light. We're not here celebrating the fact that we picked the right religion and we're so glad about it. No, Jesus has picked us. And that message, that thing that says, I'm not here because I did something right, I'm here because someone else did something right, it applies. It applies every year. It applies every week. It applies every time I talk about it with someone
Right.
at Starbucks and they're crying in public.
Right. All right. Yeah, that is a great message.
That's
And
encouraging.
It is
Yeah.
encouraging, and that's what that hope, that I mean, your point of it's not about us making a right decision. It's about Christ choosing us, and not only choosing us, but choosing us despite the fact that we completely never deserved to be chosen.
Right.
That he chose us, loved us while we were still sinners, loved us knowing what sinners we would continue to be
For sure.
after that moment. That makes Christmas what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
And if there's, if you want to take what has happened, the curse that is 2020, and say, what is the blessing? It is pushed on us and, in a sense, weakened us. And then Paul would remind us, hey, in your weakness,
Yeah.
when you're able to say, I don't know that I can do this anymore, you are in a prime position to have hope instilled in you by this true thing, which is called the good news.
Yeah. Christ with us.
Amen.
That's good stuff. Brian, I'm so glad that you were here to share this final episode of 2020.
The grand finale.
Oh, yeah, the grand finale. It wouldn't have been grand without you, though. It would have just been the finale.
A little grander.
would've been a
'cause
little
I'm
grand.
Little grander,
Yeah.
exactly. We do have one very important piece of business, though, that we need to take care of, and that's one that you'll be interested in. I don't even know what his title is. Our technical producer, our very important young man in the
Very
other
short.
room. Yeah, he's not the largest man here, but he has one of the largest hearts. Kobe Barlucci, this is his last day with us. And Kobe, I actually want you to come in here and get close enough that if any of us has COVID, you're going to actually get it. That's going to be the metric. We don't care about your hair. I don't care about wardrobe. Come on.
Fantastic.
So this young man, who is also Brian's son-in-law,
Yeah, we're family.
family, WJ Live has been just a great success this year, and there have been a couple of people that have contributed to making that happen, and Kobe has definitely been one of the kind of the top two anyway to make that happen. So we are excited about what you're doing, but we're sorry to lose you. So I wanted to give you, your 15 seconds of fame here on WJ Live. I want the people who have watched the show to understand that it wouldn't be possible without this face right here. And just to thank you publicly for your great work here in the service that you've given here. We will miss you very much.
Thanks, George.
Yes, we will.
Yeah,
Bittersweet
it's
leaving.
my pleasure.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, you're going to say real quick. You steal my microphone and say real quick where you're
Yeah, I
going.
didn't want to lean over.
Man,
Some-
that would
some
be
air
a
talk
little
to
creepy.
everybody. But yeah, I am really happy that I get to be the new worship leader at Valley Life Church North Mountain. So Brian, you guys heard at the beginning, is the pastor of Valley Life Church in Tremonto. That's in Phoenix here where we are. And they've planted, 6 now?
Mm-hmm.
6 churches in the valley. And so one of them who's been around for a little over a year, is that right?
Yeah.
So this church plant I'm going to has been around for a little over a year. They're hiring a full-time worship leader, and I get to do that. And so I get to go do that. I'm a little sad leaving the company. I've been here 3 years, so a lot of people that I've met here. I found Valley Life Church through this company, ended up marrying Brian's daughter, and
Just, I don't know how you let that happen.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, he did.
water under the bridge.
I asked him. He said yes, so no turning back now. Whether he regrets it now or not, I don't know. But no, but for real, it's been awesome, and I've been happy to work for this company, and glad that I'm just glad for this opportunity. It's been great. So
Well, we've
thanks,
been
guys.
very happy to have you here. We're sorry
you,
to see you
Kobe.
go, but all the best as you go.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, sir. You too. All right, folks. We're going to end it there. Again, just a quick reminder that we are done for the year of 2020. I hope 2020 is done with us. But we'll be back on January 4th at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal. If you haven't done it already, hopefully you're watching us on YouTube. You may be listening to us on a audio podcast. Find us on YouTube, youtube.com/WJ Live. Click that subscribe button and then click the bell.
Ding!
Can't do this without that if Joe's on. And that really helps us out. I can't tell you how much. We know every day we see people are watching us who are not subscribed. And it really helps us to see you subscribe to that channel for us. It'll also help you know that when we're back, it'll be a reminder when we're back, bringing live episodes to you. When we're back, we will be back soon. I can hear Kayla laughing in the other room at me, as usual. When we are back on January 4th, it'll be a reminder. If you've clicked that bell, you'll get just a quick notification, and you'll know to come see us. And we look forward to seeing you then. Everybody have a very Merry Christmas, a great New Year, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Stay safe.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
The Western Journal has rolled out a brand new subscription model designed specifically for readers like you, who want the unvarnished truth that the establishment media won't tell you. Our multi-tiered plans give you exactly what you want and help us fight fake news during this, the most important election of our lives. Become a subscriber to the Western Journal today and unlock exclusive features you won't find anywhere else. It's easy. Just follow the prompts in this video to join us in equipping readers